Olá, TUTAMÉIA está ao vivo, transmitindo diretamente dos nossos estúdios domésticos, com a Eleonora.
O Rodolfo.
E a gente vai apresentar a você agora entrevista que acabamos de fazer, terminamos de conversar com ela há um pouco mais de meia hora, com uma professora Teerã, especialista em assuntos americanos. Ela é professora do Departamento de Assuntos Americanos, Estudos Americanos, na Universidade de Teerã, Cores, isso. Agora, deixa eu explicar aqui.
Essa entrevista foi feita, foi gravada, por isso a gente tem uma diferença aí de tempo, trata-se da Zohreh Kharazmi.
Isso.
Né?
A gente até perguntou para ela como pronuncia. O nome tem aquele H tem um aspirado ali, mas é difícil aqui. É Zohreh Kharazmi, né, como você falou.
Professora da Universidade de Teerã, especializada em estudos sobre os Estados Unidos, estudos americanos, e ela nos deu uma visão do que está acontecendo hoje, né, dia 11 de março de 2026, em Teerã. Vocês vão ver ali, tem um relógio na tela. Teerã está às 6h30, adiantado em relação ao horário brasileiro. Eles estavam encerrando o período de jejum do dia. Então, para os islâmicos, né, eles estão no período de Ramadã, que exige um jejum diário. Ela estava acabando esse período do dia, e ela nos contou da rotina, como está a cidade, claro, sofrendo muitos ataques, sofrendo aquela chuva tóxica, que a partir da explosão, do bombardeamento, né, de reservas, revelatórios de petróleo. Teerã foi invadida por uma nuvem tóxica a partir de domingo. Ela falou dos ataques, mas falou especialmente das manifestações que estão acontecendo em Teerã. Diariamente, as pessoas acabam o período do dia de jejum e vão para as ruas no final da tarde, a partir desse horário que a gente falou com ela, e são manifestações muito grandes. Ela considerou, né, que essas manifestações são as maiores desde a Revolução, que derrubou o Shah, que derrubou a monarquia e o domínio dos Estados Unidos no país. Isso aconteceu em fevereiro de 1979, e agora as manifestações seguem, né, com muita força, ao contrário, né, do que os Estados Unidos previu manifestações, mas para a derrubada do regime. O que está acontecendo é justamente o inverso, é um fortalecimento do regime. Ela falou que aquelas manifestações que aconteceram em final de dezembro, início de janeiro, as pessoas que protestaram, houve muita infiltração, muita violência, né, por parte desses infiltrados, mas que a população iraniana que fazia protestos, eles desapareceram. Quer dizer, hoje estão todos muito coesionados em torno da defesa do país, que está sob ataque. E ela falou de muito mais coisa, né? Falou de geopolítica.
Ela afirmou, né, que essas próprias manifestações, elas são um termômetro do espírito do povo iraniano e do grau de adesão do povo à Revolução Islâmica, à Revolução Iraniana, e talvez até mais profundo do que isso, o espírito de adesão a um projeto, a um caminho soberano, a um caminho da independência. Ela falou várias vezes ao longo da entrevista, né, que não só a guerra, mas as condições em que ela ocorreu, em que ela começou, da mesma forma que na Guerra dos 12 Dias, foi durante uma negociação com os Estados Unidos. Então, é uma demonstração, e isso ficou evidente para aqueles que no país ainda esperavam algum tipo de conciliação, de negociação, de aproximação com os Estados Unidos, viram que não é possível esse tipo de... Os Estados Unidos não são confiáveis, então você não pode depender dos desejos, dos interesses norte-americanos para traçar um caminho. O país precisa ter a sua trajetória independente. Ela falou dos bombardeios, né, do caráter criminoso dos bombardeios, atingindo especialmente áreas civis. Ela deu um número de em torno de 7 mil prédios atingidos. Nas mídias já se fala de até 10 mil prédios atingidos, falando do número de hospitais, escolas. Nunca é demais lembrar que no primeiro dia os Estados Unidos bombardearam uma escola de meninas em Minab e foram assassinadas pelas bombas norte-americanas 168 estudantes, 168 meninas, que até hoje continuam a ser lembradas, continuarão a ser lembradas aí como um exemplo do tipo de terrorismo que os Estados Unidos, no governo Donald Trump, pratica. Ela falou também dos ataques a monumentos, a prédios históricos, a relíquias da humanidade, e usou esses ataques até para fazer uma comparação entre Irã e Estados Unidos. Disse que uma das mesquitas atingidas tinha quase 500 anos. Né? E lembrou, os Estados Unidos mal tem 200 anos, vão fazer 250 anos neste ano. Como comparar essa cultura e essa civilização, a civilização iraniana, a civilização persa, que tem 4.000, 6.000 anos, aí dependendo de como você for analisar. Agora, durante a entrevista, ela falou tanto das manifestações, que durante a entrevista também ocorreu cenas que vêm ocorrendo durante as manifestações, durante as concentrações populares. Quase mais na parte final da entrevista, começaram a se ouvir. Na gravação não dá muito bem para ouvir, mas é clara a reação dela, né? Primeiro de espanto, depois de querer saber. A se ouvir, então, os ruídos das baterias antiaéreas, né? Que são ensurdecedores, né? E daí ela parou a entrevista, até depois falou, esse aqui foi perto, né? Disse. Isso aconteceu também ontem, durante uma das grandes concentrações populares na capital do país, em Teerã, e da mesma forma como aqui a entrevista seguiu, lá também seguiu a manifestação, e o registro feito pela mídia local é bem significativo, representa bem a ação do povo. Vou mostrar aqui, antes de entrar na entrevista, vou mostrar, então, essa cena de ontem.
شما صحبت میکنم هدفاً داره عمل میکنیم و ما شاهد اجتماع حضور مردم هستیم در میدان انقلاب. ما نمیترسیم، ما اینجاییم، ما اینجا هستیم، مردم اینجا هستن. حتی در مقابل پدافندها، در برابر موشک‌ها ایستادن. مردم ایستادن، اومدن بیعت کنن با امامشان، با امام خامنه ای اومدن بیعت کنن و لبیک میگوین. مردم اومدن بگوین ما نمیترسیم، ما اینجاییم، ما مردم شجاعیم. داشتم شعار مردم
essa foi uma manifestação em Teerã ontem, justamente logo depois do período de jejum diário, que se encerra, né, no final da tarde, massa na rua, e ela disse que isso tem acontecido todos os dias, né, e não só em Teerã, mas muitas cidades têm se reunido. A gente tem visto aqui imagens em Isfahan, em outras cidades do Irã, essas manifestações depois do período de jejum. Ela, como professora dessa área internacional e especializada nos Estados Unidos, ela avaliou também a geopolítica da região, e fez até uma declaração de que os Estados Unidos queriam uma mudança de regime no Irã, mas o primeiro país da região que vai ter mudança de regime, ela acha que vai ser o Bahrein, né, onde os Estados Unidos têm o maior base ali na região e onde a população está bastante raivosa, né, com a presença dos Estados Unidos ali, e o que isso representou. Quer dizer, os países que abrigam essas bases americanas as bases foram bombardeadas, e há uma diferença grande entre a população e as monarquias que lideram esses países. Então, ela acha que isso tudo essa guerra pode ter consequências, ainda que não a curto prazo, no poder ali regional. Falamos também sobre o Estreito de Hormuz, né, que há toda uma discussão no país sobre quanto o país deve controlar ali. Agora ficou claro, né, que é vital para o país ter esse controle, e ela disse que uma das consequências dessa guerra para o Irã e para a região vai ser que o país vai estar cada vez mais integrado, né, e mais próximo de outros aliados, como China e Rússia, né, e mudando a face política ali não só da região, né, mas de outros, do planeta como um todo.
E no povo, né, a realidade, e daí fala a realidade no plano geral, né, as relações, a realidade no Irã, a realidade das relações do Irã com os outros países, a ação dos Estados Unidos, a realidade está se revelando para o povo, e o povo está agindo de acordo, né, com esse aprendizado aí e com essa nova determinação que está construindo. A gente pediu para ela, perguntou a ela, fazer uma avaliação do estado da guerra, perdas, ganhos, e ela afirmou, que é o título depois ela fez que o primeiro perdedor nessa guerra é o povo dos Estados Unidos. Tanto, não só do ponto de vista político, até do ponto de vista da economia do país. A cada dia são cerca de $1 bilhão que os Estados Unidos queimam, né, nessa aventura, não é aventura, é um projeto, né, integra um projeto de dominação planetária, mas, enfim, esse ataque que os Estados Unidos fazem na região aí da Ásia Ocidental.
Ela disse que o país não tem ilusões de que nesse processo as sanções, né, impostas pelos Estados Unidos praticamente desde o início da Revolução Islâmica em 79 podem ser suspensas, que ela disse que isso não está fora do horizonte, que o país tem que confiar nas suas próprias pernas, e falou também do novo líder, né?
A alegria do povo e como a própria escolha foi uma imposição de uma derrota aos Estados Unidos, né?
Sim, e ela disse que claro, os Estados Unidos e a mídia, né, tentam sempre demonizar não só a Khamenei, Khomeini e agora o novo líder, mas o próprio povo do Irã é visto como maligno, enfim, do mal. Isso a gente vê esse pensamento por trás das notícias, é isso que trazem, né? Mas ela contou que o filho do Khamenei já há muito tempo, né, atuava, né, atuava junto com o pai, e como o Khamenei não podia muitas vezes fazer viagens para o interior do país, né, ele que fazia essas viagens, então tinha uma interação muito forte, né, com a população em vários locais do país, e estava fazendo isso já há muitos anos, então é uma figura que é muito conhecida, né, apesar da gente aqui não ter conhecimento sobre ele, é uma pessoa muito conhecida e que é, segundo ela, muito admirada por esse trabalho que ele fazia, né, de ouvir as demandas, encaminhar, enfim, ele tinha uma ação muito próxima, né, das mobilizações internas dentro do país.
A gente falou também sobre o dia a dia, né? Dia a dia de bombardeios, mas o dia a dia de fazer comida, de ir ao mercado, de ir à escola ou não ir, e ela contou como isso está se desenrolando, a alimentação, o abastecimento está garantido no país, falou dos ataques às usinas de dessalinização da água, ataques a usinas elétricas também, de como isso afeta, que isso é preocupante, mas não está afetando de forma determinante o dia a dia, a continuidade, né? Ir ao mercado, fazer comida, encontrar com a família.
E a gente estava até comentando antes, quer dizer, hoje uma matéria no Financial Times relata justamente a normalidade da vida em Teerã. Um repórter conta, né, que as pessoas estão... os serviços de fechamento de buraco de rua continuam, né, os serviços de reparo de televisões, que sofrem muito com os ataques, está acontecendo, quer dizer, na medida do possível, nessas condições de guerra, a vida segue em Teerã.
E ela deixou para o fim uma surpresinha, mas a gente vai fazer a surpresinha já aqui. Ela já esteve no Brasil, conhece, esteve no Rio de Janeiro, num encontro de estudos, né, com um projeto acadêmico, há uns 10, 11 anos, e falou um pouco de como ela viu o Rio de Janeiro naquela época. Com isso, a gente passa à entrevista que foi conduzida em inglês. Então, a professora Zohreh Kharazmi é professora do Departamento de Estudos Americanos. Opa! Desculpe a nossa falha.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Zohreh Kharazmi, you will join us from Teerã. And I would like to ask you, what's the situation now in Teerã? We heard that the bombing is so heavy yesterday and today. What can you tell us about the situation in Teerã right now?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's my honor to be with you. The situation is very complicated, because on daily basis, the bombardments of different cities, not only Tehran, but Isfahan, Kermanshah, many cities and towns have been bombarded. And, the fighter jets are flying sometimes from short latitudes. So the voice and the noise they are making is really bothering. And it's a sort of slaughtering people, the ordinary people. Many of them, of course, coming from the middle classes, lower middle classes, even, that it's very indiscriminate. And, more than 5,000 houses are annihilated by these actually bombardings. And 69, for example, schools, more than 32 hospitals. So that the enemy, the United States and Israel regimes, are coming from the sort of genocidal background. So we will expect that the same scenario is in their mind to have it for Iran as well. However, Iran is geographically very widespread, and also it has its own defense session, as we are going to discuss as well, I think, tonight, about the capabilities, missile capabilities, defensive capabilities, naval capabilities we have. So what's really absorbing is that this sort of bombarding indiscriminately people and killing, 30% of the martyrs here are the children. And again, the same stories are repeating themselves. Yeah. And but at the same time, what is absorbing is that people are feeling much resistant against these imperialists. Every night, every single night, after feasting, because it's Ramadan, so people are fasting. After feasting and sunsets, they are coming to the streets with their families, just carrying the babies, women, even the elderly are coming to the streets, to different squares in the cities, all cities, and they are chanting against the United States, against Israel, and they are asking the IRGC to stand steadfastly. And after the new leaders introduced as well, they pledged allegiance in the streets with those actually maxims indicating their loyalty to the Islamic Republic. And this is, very dynamic situation that I think to understand Iran in this context is really essential for those who are working on Iranian studies or Middle Eastern studies abroad. And this is something that is not being achieved or understood through the media lenses, because mostly the Western corporate media is exploited by Americans, and they are very evidently fabricating lies about Iran. So I think that your alternative voice is really essential.
Okay, thank you. So you are saying that people are coming to the streets in big concentrations despite the bombing. Today, for instance, there are several massive concentrations. Why and what people were saying?
Exactly. Even there are portrayals of people. Some people are even taking by their cell phone cameras. They're taking these images that, for example, the interceptors are working on the sky, and people are chanting, "The God is great. We are standing against you. We are defeating you." So it's this fairness is something very historic and momentum, I think, in Iranian history. That Americans had a sort of happy ends in minds that, okay, we're coming, assassinating the leader, having people's uprisings against the Islamic Republic. We're taking over the country, and in few days, maybe 2-3 days, the whole story is finished. But they are not really ready for these contingencies. And one of these contingencies is this, that not only the uprisings, as they defined it, did not happen, but a very different narrative came to the streets. And I'm teaching in university. I have students that are watching Iran International, Manoto, that are the very soft mercenaries of the United States that are working for many years, bombarding the minds of Iranians against the Islamic Republic. And some of the students are calling me these days and telling me that how mistakes they were making. They said that we were supporting even the invasion to Iran, and we thought that the United States is bringing democracy. These sort of, myths that the media is constructing. And then they understand that the story is absolutely different. The reality is revealing itself. And I think that not only Iranians, but many people in the region are thinking the same. After the assassination of Ayatollah Khamenei, you saw in Pakistan, in Karachi, in Lahore, in Iraq, in different countries, actually, people came to streets to indicate the solidarity with Iranians and expressing their condolences about the assassination of the leader. So this global resistance front is not something that Americans can easily overcome.
So you were saying, can you tell us if this manifestation, this movement among the people is the most important since the Iranian Revolution in 1979? And what can it, you are talking about the manifestations in many countries around the region. Do you believe that the political scene could be reshaped in the coming months or years because of this war?
Absolutely, absolutely. Look at Hormuz Strait, for example. You know, the Americans' Fifth Fleet has just bases in Bahrain, in some other GCC countries. In all GCC countries, we have different air or ground bases of the United States. We, you know, and lots of ammunitions were also taken to be added to these bases in recent time for just this war. And they were just thinking that, okay, we are controlling the Hormuz Strait and the energy flow, and even Trump is trying to release some of the reserves still to indicate that there won't be anything painful for the global economics. And this sort of actually constructed images still. But the fact is that Iran indicates that it's strong enough to control the situation. I'm sorry, I'm fasting and I'm still, yeah, very thirsty. So what happened was that Iran's naval power and also the missiles, what they did actually in the region, hitting, as persistently saying even before the war, the Americans' assets and interests in the region would be the legitimate targets of Iran. And now, not only they are not able to control the flow of energy in Hormuz, but a new security paradigm has emerged in Hormuz that Iran has a very domination on. Many years Iran withdrew to have direct confrontations in Hormuz, you know. But today, a huge majority of people in Iran are thinking that controlling Hormuz is very vital, and we should stand for it. And here, not only Americans are losing against Iran, but also losing against China. Because I'm sure that China, with the good relations that China has with the GCC and Iran, and can mediate and can also technologically and technically help to have a new regime in Strait of Hormuz, I think that the Chinese would have much more open hand and upper hand in Hormuz in future. So not only Iranians got this domination and consolidated their hegemony in this Strait of Hormuz, but even today, for example, Iran Alert channels were some published papers about Bab al-Mandab, that you know that the Houthis are the allies of Iran. So they said that maybe something new happens there, some escalations there. So I think that Americans are absolutely in weak position now. And the sort of lies that they are fabricating, you know, that there's a big censorship inside Israel, for example, and also Americans are really considerate to release the real numbers of their casualties in the region and the damages they are getting. So I think that it takes time, maybe decades. They are, you know, very professional in censorship, but it takes time. But after even decades, the realities are coming into, I mean, the light should be shed on these realities, and the people are knowing that who was first beginning this acts of aggression and how they threatened the global economy with that aggression.
So what's the information Iranian people are getting about the state of the war? I mean, people from the Revolutionary Guard do some say speech about the development of the war, the casualties in the among the enemy. So what can you tell us about the information the Revolutionary Guard releases to your Iranian people?
From the very beginning of war, the IRGC started their, public alerting about what's running in the fronts, giving numbers. And Iran was not really censoring things, talking about the casualties, talking about for example, the humanitarian aspects of the war even. As I said, 7,000 houses are destroyed and annihilated by Americans, 69 schools, 32 hospitals. And this list, of course, is endless because they also attacked to the, for example, water desalination assets in the south of Iran that, it was feeding 30 villages. And the water is not something that you are actually kidding with. And also the oil deposits that they were taking precedence in doing such anti-humanitarian actions. When they just attacked the oil and gas deposits, what happened was that a sort of acid rain, that was the rain with absolutely contaminated by the chemically contaminated rain, covered all the city. It was really dangerous, and a very thick smoke was hanging over the sky of Tehran. But what matters is that the rulers of the United States and Israel are the Epstein class people. Trump is every day threatened by Israelis to release the pictures of his sex with the children and the pedophilic actually sort of things they did. And very much we're believing that it's the war of Israel rather than the United States. But who is the loser? First, the American people, the taxpayers of the United States, that billions. At least is estimated that every day 1 trillion is the loss of the 1 billion is the loss of the United States. 1 billion, yes. So you can imagine that it is only the overt one. You cannot imagine how much covert and different layers are behind that is still not released. And that during the June war that took 12 days, the United States and Israel used about 100 to 115 THAAD munitions. And then in this war, only in 10 days, they used more than about 550 THAADs. And every THAAD, is about $13 million in production, and there are just a few numbers of them. So you understand that how the scale of the Iranian retaliation and the power and the being precise and being powerful about the missiles of Iran was not predicted by them, and how you can compare the vulnerability against Iran now. So I think that it's a long way to go, and still we need much the alternative media to let the Americans know that how they are the losers of this war. And also there are other losers, like the GCC countries, for example. The GCC countries, for years, they put billions of dollars, and not only giving land, but also investing billions of dollars in the Americans' bases. And right at the moment that Qatar, that, at least Qatar has set $18 billion in Al-Udeid. And right at the time that Qatar was, the American targets in Qatar were targeted by Iran, and Qatar was boasting about retaliation and we're going to respond. Americans preferred to send the intercept facilities to Israel, not Qatar. So many of these countries, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, just stayed very much defenseless, and indicated that they are not really sovereign in their territories. This is the Americans that are deciding for them. And you think that the people in the region don't understand it? Bahrain today is much closer to regime change than Iran.
Why do you say that?
So much. You know that in UAE, if you are taking pictures of the Iranian retaliation, $600 you're going to be fined. And in Bahrain, not only paying money or something, you will be arrested. And the same sort of laws in Israel is, that many, I think Al Jazeera had lots of reports about the censorship in Israel as well. So why you're banning people to know the reality? If you are having this upper hand that you are claiming, why you are banning the disinformation, misinformation is you are investing in? Why? So this is, I think, legitimate question that the peoples of the region are asking these days.
So you were saying that maybe in the future or in the year you should see revolts in those countries. Henry Kissinger used to say that being an enemy of United States is very dangerous, but being a friend could be fatal. You think that the people are going to uprise and overthrow the monarchy? The monarchies are in danger.
Yes, and just consider, please, that if the escalation of the war, as it happens, that they took precedence in attacking the civil infrastructure, and so the civil infrastructure there becomes a legitimate target for Iran as well, or the oil depots, for example, and the banks. Today, the banks, yesterday, banks were targeted, and again, the financial institution, the banks, the other assets would be the legitimate targets. So if you are just considering this war in this escalation ladder, you understand that how chaotic would be the situation. And these days, there are lots of messages coming from the GCC, for example, countries, from Turkey, to trying to convince Iranians to come to the negotiating table. But Iranians were at the negotiating table when they were attacked. It was the second time that mid-negotiations Iran was attacked. So there is no reason, no excuses to, again, when we have the upper hand on the military side, we make it off and go to the negotiating table, then we are sure that is not working. It becomes in a sort of, tactic for them that whenever they're feeling that they are defeated, they're talking about negotiations. And the will among the Iranians, and I see here, I go to the streets with other people every night. Today, for example, it was thousands of people in the streets to say farewell to the commanders that were assassinated by Americans. And even when you are watching the interviews with the families, for example, that lost their members, their houses in this war, what is echoing all the time in the atmosphere of Iran is that resistance. Even some of those who were deceived by the satellite channels, by the social media channel, that's very much weaponized against Iran these years. Some of them even are feeling to be punished. They understand that relying on the United States is not really responsive. So I still feel that not only in military side and economic side, but also in the resistance discourse, it's a momentum that we can talk about it even more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do you think will be the development of this war in the following days? You talked about escalating the conflict. What may happen, say, this week, next week?
I cannot talk about a very specific time because, it's ongoing, and every day a new sort of escalation happens. So we don't know really when and to what end it's going to finish. But what I understand is that it would have some very permanent effects on the region. I don't know if you have heard about the global jihad. Not only the Shia Maraji and the clergies, but even the Sunni ones. You know that Iran is the majority Shia Muslims, but the Sunni muftis from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Russia, from Mauritania, from Tunisia, from Malaysia, from different countries, they started to verdict the verdict of jihad. And jihad means resistance. It means that not all of them militarily just interfering, but in thinking about the imperialism critically, in thinking that the governments of the region should be responsive. You cannot host an American base with thousands of soldiers and munitions in the region. And many of them are formulated for short-range attacking of Iran. You know that, for example, 300 kilometers, something like this is the scale of much of this munitions. And they are striking from your territory toward another country like Iran. And you are saying that, okay, it's not my affair, I should stand alone on a corner, safe and sound. And the GCC is paying a very bad, is paying very badly for such a frame that Iran for many years were advising them to actually prevent. And even Turkey, for example, you know that Turkey has the airbase, Ayderlik actually airbase, that 30 B-61 nuclear bombs of the United States is stationed there. Okay, when these countries are hosting such large amount of munitions, and the experience indicates that they have no sovereignty upon them. Americans are not listening to them, not even taking them serious. Trump was many times saying that they are milking the GCC countries. So in such a situation, how Iran should abide by and actually just provide the security for its citizens. Iran is in a very legitimate situation to defend itself. And all, you know, many lawyers, international lawyers, have already declared that the United States has attacked Iran illegally, and Iran has the legitimate position of self-defense. But not only this, but you know that the new leader is appointed in Iran after the assassination of the Ayatollah Khamenei. And it is his son, Sayyid Mujtaba Khamenei, that we can talk about him as well, because it's a very interesting story. And now, I mean that from June war, more than 80% of Iranians, as the polls indicating, are supporting the missile program firmly. And they understand that our survival depends on being, militarily capable. And also, this is the first time that a majority of people are thinking that nuclear weapons is essential for us to have the deterrence.
Majority.
Yes. And it was 55% after the June war. And I was just talking to one of my friends that is very expert of these polls. He said that it's much expected to be higher and higher than this number nowadays, that people are thinking that, okay, if the nuclear weapons can bring deterrence, why not? And you know that Ayatollah Khamenei was among the minority that with the fatwa that he were dictated in 2003, actually, I think it was 2003, many years ago, that with that fatwa, he just banned any programs, any thinking of and working on the project. And Americans knew that Iran is not moving toward the weapons. How? I told you, it was in March that the National Intelligence Community of the United States actually published a report. And the intelligence communities, the whole intelligence community of the United States came to this result that it had 3 points. Number one was that Iran doesn't have the nuclear weapon. The second was Iran doesn't have any program to move toward. And the third was that the Iranian authorities have not any decisions to begin such a program. So Americans well knew that. And you may put it beside that Trump claimed that obliterated all nuclear capability of Iran during the June war. So can you believe and do you accept that they are attacking us again in this mass attacks and slaughtering people and making a lot of casualties for just making us not to move to be a nuclear, for example, weapon owner. So I think it's very ridiculous. And I know today that many people, at least those intellectuals, well know what is the story, and they know that the United States is hijacked by Americans. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah.
You are interrupted. So, and many know that it's the United States rulers and actually government is very much hijacked by Israelis, unfortunately.
And do you believe that this new leader should change this politics towards the nuclear weapons? What can you tell us about the new leader? Their feeling, their thoughts, their
Yeah. Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei is a very good case to work on, I think, because it's for many years that the American media, like and those even Persian language media that is backed by the United States, for many years they tried to do a character assassination against him. They were always talking about the man of shadow, the man behind the scenes, this sort of, making him a sort of weird and actually and intimidating even people, that if he comes to war to actually be the supreme leader, that would be very terrible and very fundamentalist sort of, conceptions that they are making and fabricating. But the fact is that Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei is very clear for the minds of the people inside, because first of all, he was this actually advisor of his father. And he worked with IRGC, with the ministers in government, with different political parties and fractions. So many of them have this consensus that he's very balanced in positions, and he is very reliable in strategic thinking and wisdom. And he's the person that has a sort of sophisticated understanding of the situation of ordinary people, because in many provinces that Ayatollah Khamenei, his father, had limitations to go, he was going, traveling, talking to people, sitting with ordinary people, understanding their problems. And he was playing a very vital role as the ears and eyes of his father. So many are really relying on him to be well aware how to work, how to have a dialectical engagement with different parties, different stakeholders. And I think so when he was appointed, and it was actually declared, a huge body of people just got the news with jubilation and happiness and joy and enthusiasm. Why? Because not only about his character that is reliable, but at the same time, at the mid of the war, that the Israelis spokesman, the Arabic spokesman of Israel had already announced, and many of their officials as well, that any new leader would be assassinated again. So they have no sense of humanity, no sense of morality. But appointing him in such a situation that he lost, different members of his family, even his wife was assassinated by the United States. At this time, at this moment, it indicated the confidence and practicality of the Islamic Republic. Because during the time that, some days that between the assassination of the ex-leader and appointing the new one, the leading council based on the constitution was made, and they were just taking the decisions, and the military side was running well. And about the food supply, about the water supply, about the health, facilities, everything was just doing its well. But appointing him among these threats was indicating a sort of confidence and self-confidence and sense of sovereignty of the Iranians, I think.
For the past week, Iran has been governed by a provisional council, and in the past few days after the election or declaration of this new supreme leader, have you felt any change? Has he given? He had time to give any any new orientation to the way things are run in Iran?
And some say here there is a rumor that he got injured in the bombing. Is that, do you know, happen to know anything about it?
I'm not sure about it because all the members of the Ayatollah Khamenei, because some of them were assassinated by the United States. As I said, the Israelis are threatening all the time that they are killing others as well. Even that 40-month child of the family was assassinated. So they have no sense of mercy in them. So Ayatollah Khamenei, the Mojtaba Khamenei has not appeared and is protected, I think, and it's very rational to do so. So I don't have any specific news about this that you mentioned. But anyway, I think the president, the military and political figures, and the people, many of the people have just pledged allegiance to him. And I'm sure that in the covert sense, that is very rational for such a situation, is working. And one of the immediate impacts of choosing the new leader is how to ending this war. People are asking the government to be serious, to be tough, not having any compromise with the United States, because we don't like to be like Lebanon, like Palestine, that every other month they are thinking that, okay, new attack and invasion can actually be done against Iran. So we like to have a sustainable security, and this sustainable security cannot be guaranteed unless we get them into submission this time. And we should be really serious in that. Even, however, we are losing many things. And we are, under the economic terrorism and sanctions of the United States for many years. So we understand that what does it mean economically to us? Maybe there are more sufferings in future. But about the security, I think Iranians have the consensus that is so vital that we should sacrifice for, and we should be tough against the enemy this time.
Professor, what can you tell us about the Life University? We saw before the attack some manifestations in universities. We saw the manifestations in January. What can you tell us about the situation in university and the situation, the people of the bazaar that were very important for Iranian revolution back there in 1979, and now they are organizing manifestations against the government. What can you tell us about the students and the bazaar?
Yeah, it's also very complicated. First is that when you're talking about sanctions and economic sufferings, that is very much, of course, is imposed by the United States itself. So it's serious, because when you are missing the chance of, for example, access to the financial global markets, even we in university that would like to, for example, buy a book, it's not easy for you to do so because you don't have these sort of Visa cards, MasterCards, this global, marketing tools and actually instruments. And it is serious. Some of the people, those who are working in private sector, for example, are badly damaged these years. And some of them are not feeling really satisfied with the economic situation, many of them, of course. And part of the population that time that came to the streets was from that side, that they were just feeling that the government should think of the situation, should find ways. And some are criticizing even the government that why they are not finding more efficient ways to work with China, for example, with Russia, for example, and how they are still reliant on the US dollars and the UAE, for example, for bringing money in, bringing international currencies in. This is something that I think that would really shift after this war. And so part of the population was this, and among them, of course, the youth, because the youth are more vulnerable. They are many, they're highly educated. The youth are highly educated in Iran, and that 60% of the entrance of universities are the women. So they're very well educated. So this educated young population need to have more access and share of the markets. And these restrictions are bringing more dissatisfaction. But it was a portion of the whole story. And I think that what made really the trouble was thousands of mercenaries that were employed by Israel. You know that more than 6,000 satellite, this Starlink access points were just distributed throughout the country, that even if the government is, for example, disrupting internet to control the situation, they can continue their work. And what really was terrible, we witnessed a sort of city war, you know, that they were coming to streets at night for about 1-2 hours, that they actually the satellite channels were calling them to do so, and they were butchering people. They had all sorts of arms, and the Iranian intelligence should be really alert that we think still that sort of danger is existing, that some trained people that they were armed and they were just coming to streets. For example, they stopping people's cars. They were setting fire on the people's cars. They were setting fire on the banks, on the public places. They're inciting and instigating the youth in the universities, in the NGOs, for example, to mobilize for a big change. And everybody, and nobody knows that what is that big change? That was this war. Many of them now come to this conclusion that all this was part of a bigger picture to bring this uprisings to facilitate the way and to pave the way for the war. And the sort of violence they were indicating, you know, that many small children were killed. A nurse was set into fire in a clinic. The violence they indicated was really intimidating, I can say. Many people were wondering that who they are. They were like the ISIS trained people. They were not normal Iranian opposition or demonstrators. We well understood it. And now that the pulse is changing and the supporters of Islamic Republic are coming to the streets, you have no voice heard of them. Where are they? If they were really demonstrators, really those who are dissatisfying with the IRI, with Islamic Republic, where are they? They evaporated. But we're sure that they are still waiting for a new opportunity. Why? Because they are not they are the people of the United States, and they are well paid by Israel and the United States. Look at Masih Ali-Nejad. Masih Ali-Nejad is getting more than $800,000 from the United States to make such mess. And the people like her, not only inside Iran, but from outside, they have such leaders, that they are the native informants, that some of them even have not lived in Iran. They are the second or third generations of those who have migrated to the United States, for example, during the revolution or during the Iraq-Iran war. And they are deceiving the Americans. They are giving them wrong data and information. And they're getting millions of dollars every year. And they're bringing these miscalculations that you're assassinating the leader. The next day, the uprisings are coming. And the third day, you are the overwhelming power in Tehran. So because they are not having a actually understanding, they're very ignorant about the cultural resistance of the Iranians, the way and the culture of the Iranians. Just you may consider that we're coming from a very great civilization for thousands of years. And the bombardment of the different cities of Iran, particularly in Isfahan, that's a very old city and very, you know, as you have been there, you know how beautiful it is. 14 historical sites have been annihilated. And it's interesting to know that about one of them, I'm just giving an explanation, that one of these buildings, that is the Mosque of Sheikh Lutfullah in Isfahan, the age of the building was 437 years. can you compare this age of this building with the age of the United States and Israel? So they have no historical civilizational background behind. And the savagery, brutality that they are indicating is well understandable because they are on decline. They have not such a civilizational heritage behind. So they do any sort of cruel things to save themselves.
Professor, your field of expertise is the United States. What can you say about the impact of this war in the United States, in society? What can you tell? What's your feeling about this?
Yeah, I'm really, I'm feeling a bad misfortune that Americans are looking at Iran from the lens of the American media. And the corporate media in the United States is absolutely fabricating lies about Iran. I sometimes aspire that we had exchanges with American universities, letting their professors and students come in to understand that how big mistakes they are making in their calculations. And as I said, how these native informants with just fabricating lies and constructed portrayals of Iran are just making them fool. About the United States, I think that part of the reality is coming to be revealed till the midterm elections. That would be hard times, I think, for Trump and the Republicans. However, the Congress did not do its duty to stop Trump and become part of the complicity of this war and crimes. But I think that the Americans very soon knew that when the energy prices go up, that is going up, they are trying to release some of the reserves, maybe controlling few days. But for long term, be sure that not only the Americans, but Europeans, but Southeast Asians, they will understand that what does this war mean. And not only the energy prices, but also the supplies. You know that, for example, even the agriculture industry in the global scale, I mean, is affected by this war. The markets, the banks and financial institutions, and they are talking about the oil prices and the gas prices surging to, for example, the oil prices to $200 a barrel. So I think the unemployment and the difficulties that Americans are facing today would be much worse in near future and in mid and long term. And you just can imagine that when Mamdani was just winning New York election, the very basic promises was affordable transportation and affordable food. So New York is the hub of the wealth and power of the United States. So how this rift and gap between the decision makers and the people is considerable. You will understand. And I think this war makes everything much, much worse. And as I said, maybe it takes time to know all the realities, but at least some, like this economic, for example, impact would be very soon felt in the United States.
Do you believe that the aftermath of this war will see a reshape of the balance of power in the world, in which way?
I think so. However, it's a bit soon, but what I understand is that China and Russia would be much more integrated to Iran. Iran is pushed much more because, you know, in Iran also there are some people whose minds are very much affected by the American textbooks and media and, you know, this sort of, I mean, Western tradition of thought and philosophy. So many times it was a sort of conflict in decision makings that whenever we like to have a shift or China, for example, these people are coming and saying, no, if you are relying on the West, it would be much better opportunities. And even a sort of Russia phobia, China phobia was very much, you know, fabricated and disseminated by these people. But I think this war make the situation in a way that Iran would be much more integrated with China and Russia. And Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei is, because he has the, good experiences in understanding the power structure and the regional power structure. You know, he has very good relations with with Iran's allies in the region, and he has some meetings with the, I think, other countries' authorities, understanding the ecosystem, the economic ecosystem. So I think it would be a very principal shift that makes the United States, that likes to push China from an exporter to a consumer, that as Americans authorities were mentioning, or I don't know, having the, for example, tariff wars with China, that was all actually already broken. It would be much losing the game. And even the GCC countries, if they are wise, I think in future they are trying to diversify their trading and security partners. We should sit and watch. Are they enough wise to do so or not? But anyway, I think many things will change, at least in this region. And the domination and the ability and the capability of Islamic Republic, not as they call it all the time, they call us a regime. Who has coined this actually term? Never did they like to make the deal with Iran as a state that has the sovereign territory with 92 million population, that a huge body of them are supporting Islamic Republic. So you see that even, for example, when they are talking about the Persian Gulf, they call it Gulf or Arab Gulf. Why they are changing these things? Why they're trying to modify things and project them in a actually wrong way? Because they are thinking that it nurtures power. But the fact today, at mid of the war, indicates that who is really powerful, I think.
And I believe that at the end of the war, it's possible that all those sanctions, the blockade, could be suspended or finished. Is it possible to think? And what do you expect the relationship between Trump and Putin? Trump talked to Putin 2 days ago, and Trump is going to China at the end of this month. What does it look like? This movement look like?
Yes, I forget the first question.
The first question, is it possible to imagine the sanctions going out?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And Iran shall not rely on the removal of sanctions. You know that the JCPOA, that was meticulously negotiated multilateral agreement, and the only party of the JCPOA was Iran that was well committed to all the commitments. And at the end of the day, what was the result? Was the B-2 bombers. So historical lessons tell us that don't rely on the removal of sanctions. And you know, the sanctions have got a very complicated network of the players and actors and institutions inside the United States. Even the president of the United States or the Congress itself, for example, are not in the place to remove them. So I think that it's something that we should forget about it. Mm-hmm. What we should rely on is our self-sufficiency and working much more efficiently with other actors. You know, for example, as I said, those fractions that are thinking, I can call them orientalized Oriental. You know, they're looking at themselves from the lens of Americans and the Europeans. So these people, if, you know, today their hands become short, and if they are letting us to pave the way to more diversified partners, there are lots of, you know, for example, in BRICS, and Shanghai cooperation, there are lots of these actually platforms that can make a much more vibrant atmosphere and environment for our tradesmen, for industry to work. And these are something that the new structures even can be developed. Maybe the regional ones, maybe between Iran and other allies in the region, and also beyond the region. So I think that they're not thinking about the removal of sanctions, but about Trump. Trump is just trying its, I mean, the last efforts to save himself and to go out of this war with at least less damaged reputation. So talking to Putin, even that some of the Putin sanctions are lifted temporarily because of the energy market is really surging. So yeah, and even talking to China as well. China is intelligent enough to understand that who is Trump and what sort of plans he has for China. So I think these are the last efforts they're doing, and it wouldn't be that efficient in long run.
Okay. I'd like to come back to the everyday life.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how is your day? I mean, your routine, or if any. And in university, is the university working normally, or normally it wouldn't be, of course, but
yeah,
how
actually,
is the everyday life in,
no, because yeah, I understand. The everyday life, for example, I'm living in Tehran, and Tehran is a very big city, 14 million people actually living here. Some people have just moved to other cities, maybe the towns, the villages that they were thinking is more safe. And the universities, of course, are now closed because the dormitories, that lots of students coming from other cities and towns to Tehran, for example, to the University of Tehran that I'm teaching. And the dorms is full of those students. And when the war started, so for the security and safety of these students, the government just closed the universities that they can go back home. Some universities started their courses virtually because that we are approaching the New Year holiday as well. So some universities think that they can just halt the education for after the New Year holiday. Some schools are at the level of university, but at the level of schools and workplaces, many of them are running virtually. But some private institutions that are much self-sufficient and they cannot really have access to governmental, for example, income, so and revenues, they are doing their everyday life activities. So when you are just going out, you see people are walking in the streets, doing their normal business. And as I said, what is more significant is that when they are feasting their fast at nights, we have large reunions in the squares that people are coming, and sometimes they are just remaining there for hours. For example, they start at 7:30, just early night, and they're finishing at 11, 12. You can understand how the range of hours that they are standing together, chanting against the United States, feeling solidarity. And after the appointment of the new leader, they have lots of maxims, pro-leader. So it's a very vibrant, energetic, also communities gathering together.
And how about food, energy, water? Is it all working?
Yes, from the very beginning, the government just declared and announced that there's enough supply of food. Iran is very widespread in geography. And however, on daily basis, they are bombarding in a very indiscriminate manner. And the civil houses, places are well targeted by them. But because it's widespread, so you see that places are hit, and many places are not even having the voice of that hit. So they are continuing and keeping on their normal activities. So I think this strategy depth is one of the key figures and key measurements that is really helping Iran to win this war. Anyway, this is the war situation. And as I said, for example, from Zohreh, from UAE, missiles were targeting the water desalination plants in south of Iran. Or sometimes they are targeting the electricity plants, for example, in some cities. But normally there are few hours of cutting off and being restored. And oh, I'm hearing the interceptions are working here. I don't know, you have the voice. Oh, it's very close to my house as well. So anyway, this is the situation, and it runs as it runs.
You say that Iran is winning the war.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the interceptors are working so close to my house. So anyway, I think that we are abiding by our sovereign and legitimate right to self-defense and standing against this imperialist powers. And this is the time, I think, that the nations of the world, in many countries, you see it in Madrid, for example, in Vienna, in I don't know, in variety of countries, people are indicating their solidarity with Iran. And it is the side effect of this brutality of the United States and genocidal understanding Israel and the United States have. And you know that in their ideology, when you're talking about Israel and many of these Christian Zionists in the United States, others are Amalek. They are inferior. You can kill them. You can brutally behave them, no matter they are children, they are women. So they have no sense of humanity, no sense of, morality. And we really firmly believe that God and the Islamic culture that tells us that standing against oppression is vital. You know, the Shia Muslims are believing in Imam Hussein in Karbala. That was a massacre for what? For standing against the opposition. And historic lessons are again becoming alive, revitalizing the spirit of resistance among the people. And inshallah, it works.
Great. We'd like to thank you very much for having accepted this our invitation for this interview. And before we say goodbye, would like to hear your message to the Brazilian people.
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It was really a pleasure to talk to you. I've been in Brazil 10, 11 years ago for a conference. I was there. It was for 4 or 5 days, not actually a long trip. But I really never forget the sweet memories of Brazil, the hospitality of the people, their warmness, and a very the very picture in mind is that we went to sugarcane, something like this, if I remember the name exactly. Yeah, and there I saw one of the indigenous people, and he asked us, because you know that they're wearing the costume indicated that they were Muslims, and he asked us that where are you from, and this sort of conversations. And then when he understood that we were coming from Iran, he indicated the sort of love symbol. And many people in Rio, when we saw us, were talking about the resistance. We talked about appreciating the Iranian culture. And I think that still we Brazilians, many other people in Latin America, shall not see each other from the lens of the Westerners. We need to know much more about each other. Yeah, the voices are just coming, I think, closer and closer. So anyway, hopefully we be much more in interaction and knowing about each other much deeply.
Okay, thank you very
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We stop the recording now.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.